what's up, Earth? It's Spaceman Matt here to talk about classic Doctor Who available on Tubi. I was calling it Tubi TV before, but it's just Tubi. Sorry about that. Today we're going to look at the Third Doctor's episodes. Third Doctor played by Jon Pertwee. This is the first time the series is in color. They stranded him on Earth because I guess they figured it for Casoda we could save money doing location filming and doing it mostly on videotape. They could save some money. I know Jon Pertwee wanted to do it all on film, supposedly. He said that at conventions, and that's why Spearhead from Space is all on film, but unfortunately they didn't have the budget to do that for the whole series. Just figuring it in color, it looks better in film than it does on video. It is less jarring, I think, than the video, than the appearance of the show on video. But also, I mean, it gives it like a softer look, I guess, to be on film. Season 7 was Jon Pertwee's first season, first all in color. We see the return of, there's Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier. He was a carryover from the second Doctor, where he was Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, and then he gets a job with the United Nations Intelligence Task Force unit, which is kind of like I guess an espionage and part of NATO that is supposed to keep an eye on extraterrestrials and things like that. So Spirit from Space features as the first episode to feature the Autons, which are the Nestine consciousness, which creates Autons. It manipulates humans to create Autons, which are like these robots made of all of plastic, and they have a natural affinity to plastic, and they can manipulate plastic with their will. And they can manifest themselves into plastic objects. So in this first appearance, they also kind of plan to take over the world by replacing leaders with plastic replicas of them. This was kind of used in, I think, this Future World, which was a sequel to Westworld. There was a plot to replace all world leaders with robot duplicates, and this was kind of also the Autons plot. So I do think this one is definitely worth your time. It's only a 4-parter, and it moves at a steady pace, and it's quite interesting. And also Jon Pertwee's Doctor is in this episode a lot more lighthearted and silly, and if he had carried that persona throughout the series, I think I would have liked him a lot better. Instead, at some point, by the time he gets to the Silurians, he decides to play it straight and more heroic and less silly. And I think that's where I think he kind of lost me there. But he still, again, he was good when the stories were good. He was very good, and when the stories were okay, he was okay. But so Silurians again is a 6-parter, so it's a bit much. A lot of fans like this one. I find the Silurians kind of annoying. I don't know if you see them in any of the stills here. I don't think so, unfortunately. It's weird how the Tubi chose these stills, but they were kind of. I don't think they were that convincing as monsters. The synthesized voices for them were kind of annoying, and the plot was pretty much that. During the Silurian period, they kind of dominated the Earth. They went underground when the Earth became uninhabitable for them, and they're re-emerging now because I guess humans had stumbled upon them, and so the Doctor has to. They're not really the bad guys, but the Doctor has to try to moderate between the humans and the Silurians and see if they can live peacefully together. But between they, of course, he has a difficult time doing that, and then they wind up having to. The Doctor winds up having to stop the Silurians' plan to eliminate all the humans from Earth. So it ends at kind of that with that problem. Silurians was a 7-parter, and it was a bit long. And so, as I said, some fans like it. Some, I think it's a little bit much. Next up was the Ambassadors of Death. Again, was an interesting story, but too drawn out here. It involves, I guess, some criminals taking hostage of radioactive aliens and using the fact that they can harm humans because they're too radioactive. And they use that to do for criminal purposes. That was kind of interesting, different kind of story. It's just too drawn out here. I think it's a skippable one for that, but if you can, it's another 7-parter, so I think it's a bit much. A lot of people like Inferno. It's the first time Doctor Who, and I think it's probably the only times that Doctor Who does takes place in a parallel universe. The Doctor travels sideways in time, and winds up in a parallel universe where the Earth will be destroyed from these experiments to drill into the into the mantle of the Earth. So they and there's because it's Doctor Who, there has to be some monsters. So while drilling, some of the workers get exposed to a gas that turns them into these primitive monsters, kind of like a de-evolution, instantaneous de-evolution, and so that's another menace that they have to deal with. I think they deal with it in both worlds, and the Doctor has to defeat them as well as stop the Earth from being destroyed in the primary universe where he comes from. So, and he gets to the alternate universe because he's trying to fix the TARDIS, and unfortunately, it takes him, instead of being able to travel backward and forward in time, it takes him into a parallel universe. So again, it's kind of interesting. It's just drawn out so much. There's the evil brigadier. There's Carolyn John with the wig on. She was his companion for this one season as Liz Shaw, as the scientist Liz Shaw. Here she is as an alternative Liz Shaw with an alternative brigadier with no mustache and a patch on his eye. So I thought that was rather creative. I don't know if that's, and there's Sergeant Benton. I don't know if that's the original Sergeant Benton or the alternative universe Sergeant Benton, but there he is. And that's it. I think everything except for Spearhead from Space is skippable for this season. Spearhead from Space definitely is worth. And Russell T Davies started out with like a rehash of Spearhead for Space for the first revival episode for the Ninth Doctor. It was a rehash of Spearhead from Space with the Autons again. I did like the Russell T Davies version of it and I think that was a good way to start the show with a familiar villain and a familiar plot, because the plot's not that much different than Spearhead. Um, let's look at season 8. So Liz Shaw only lasted one season, and she's replaced by Katie Manning, who plays Joe Grant. And he doesn't really. She's kind of a secret agent that I think got to her position through connections. So the doctor's not thrilled. He misses Liz Shaw because she was a scientist. So he thought she was a better companion, but eventually Joe Grant grows on him, and Terror of the Autons sees the return of the Autons and the introduction of the Master, a villainous Time Lord that is a rival for the Third Doctor pretty much throughout his run until, unfortunately, Roger Delgado passed away in a car accident. So he doesn't make it all the way to the end of the Pertwee's run. So it's unfortunate, but so I think he's the primary villain throughout the season. So in Terror of the Autons, he teams up with the Autons with a plot to take over the world using, and this was interesting, I don't know if they show you I'm going to show you the guys here. They plan to take over the world with the Autons, which are automated robots made all of plastic, and they want to and distribute these daffodils, which spray a plastic film over people's noses and mouths to suffocate them. So they're gonna wipe out the human race with plastic daffodils, and they go through a bunch of different ways to kill people using plastic, but then they feel that the daffodils are most efficient, so they start distributing them with these with the robotic Autons dressed up in these silly carnival type masks and suits, and it's just a fun scene with the with unit soldiers shooting at these Autons who are dressed up in the carnival suits, firing back at them with their weapons, and it's just it's like kind of a surreal, funny fight scene there. And it's definitely it's probably so Terror of the Auton, Spirit from Space are probably both of my top 10 favorite Doctor Who episodes of all time. Mind of Evil is an interesting concept. It's just kind of a dark execution, and it's the Master returns here posing as a scientist who has a machine. There's Roger Delgado as the Master in Mind of Evil, and he's posing as a scientist that has a machine that can rehabilitate criminals, but it's really some type of, the machine actually contains an alien parasite which does something to the mind that makes people afraid of it brings out their darkest fears and kind of makes them crazy from that. It's a great concept. I think it's just it's not a great execution. You could probably skip this one. And then the next one is Claws of Axos, which is again one of my favorite Doctor Who episodes, probably within my top 10. One of these days I'll do a ranking of just classic Doctor Who, I think. But this definitely will be in my Claws of Axos will be in my top 10. The Master teams up with the with Axos, which is this entity, which is like a big spaceship that is all organic, and it's made, and so the passengers in the spaceship and they're all the same, and the spaceship itself are all the same creature. I thought that was kind of a far out concept. kind of neat. First time you see an organic spaceship, but it can function it so it looks like it's a bunch of it's manned by a bunch of aliens, but um, it's actually one big entity. And I thought they did a great job with the aliens and they kind of I think they did kind of blow their special effects budget for the season on this episode. Unfortunately, you don't see it in the thumbnails, but it was a very visually stunning episode. The aliens are very stunning and are very interesting looking, and I think it was very well done overall. Colony of Space was kind of again trying to get to another. How many parts is this? This has got to be another six-parter. That is just a little too drawn out. Sorry, I don't want to spend time describing it. It is kind of. I mean, if you may want to check it out for yourself. I didn't think overall it was that great, and it's too drawn out. A lot of fans like the Demons. It is very similar to the movie Quatermass in the Pit. The plot is kind of similar to that movie, and again, it's the Master this time teams up with an alien that they dig up in this ancient burial mound or ancient like whatever. What do you call the ancient druid burial mound, and there's a lot of, I guess, like paranormal activity in that area. This woman in the background here, if you see in the scene, she's like she's like a Wiccan good witch, and she's kind of has psychic powers, and she's kind of an interesting character, but overall, again, I think it's a little too drawn out. I think the whole like the demonic thing. This also is like kind of in Childhood Zen by Arthur Clarke, too, where it's these um, these outer space aliens form our idea. I guess that's pronounced demons. So it forms our idea of the demons and the devil. And again, I don't think they don't use his image. I think for the thumbnail now, just the Brigadier there. Unfortunately, you don't see the alien with with, but he looks kind of like a satyr or a fawn or something with but the devil, the devil head and like a goat's bottom, and it's I don't. A lot of fans like this story. I don't particularly care for it, and it's too long. Let's go to season 9. Day of the Daleks is just interesting because it's a story that actually features time travel, and again, we don't see the Daleks here. I don't see. I think the Ogrons are in this one too. So the Ogrons are these assistants of the Daleks that look a little bit like Klingons. So the Ogrons look a little bit like Klingons from the first Star Trek movie. Day of the Daleks is interesting because it does feature time travel, which Doctor Who really doesn't cover. This is where the Blinovitch limitation effect is mentioned for the first time. Which says you can't keep going back into your own timeline to change the past. You'll be like eliminated from the timeline if you keep going back to try to change things in the past. So you can't keep traveling back on your same timeline. This is followed by. That's only a 4-parter. It seemed like it was longer. I don't think. Again, I think it suffers also from lack of budget, and you don't see the Daleks that much. There's only like 2 or 3 working Daleks that they have, and they have to use that to pretend to be an army of Daleks. Then it's followed by the Curse of Peladon, which is a kind of like a take on like the closed room Agatha Christie mystery taking place on a planet. This is Patrick Troughton's son here, who's playing the Crown Prince of Peladon, and let's see, and there's a bunch of aliens. This is kind of it's a cute one. Um, not my favorite episode, but still it's very watchable. And it's only 4 parts, so easy to get through. Um, the Master is back again for the Sea Devils. And the Sea Devils is another take on the Silurians, a similar, but the Master is involved with the Sea Devils, and he's trying to, get them to start a war with the humans so he can take over the world with the Sea Devils' help. The Doctor has to convince the Sea Devils that the Master is manipulating them, and then he tries to convince the humans that the Sea Devils aren't all bad. It's just that the Master's trying to, control them for his own nefarious purposes. So he kind of acts. I find, again, I think that this episode's a little much. Then it's followed by the Mutants, which again is a very padded episode. I think it suffers a bit also from, budgeting and special effects issues. Um, there's a Star Trek Next Generation episode. I think it's called Metamorphosis. Sorry to do my homework, but I think it's called Metamorphosis. It follows a very similar plot where these mutant aliens are actually, they have some low-level mutant aliens in them, but then there are people that, I guess, after being exposed to this planet, are evolving into these super beings, or I can't remember if they're the natives of the planet or just Earth colonists, but being exposed to the planet, they are evolving into these super beings, and it's kind of similar to that Metamorphosis uh, episode of Star Trek Next Generation, although I think Star Trek did a better job overall. Again, if you can get through the padding, it might be worth your while to watch it, but I think it's a bit much. And some of the costumes and stuff sets are really bad on this one. Time Monster is another one. It starts out like kind of a great concept with the Master again posing as a scientist, Professor Keller, I think, Kellerman or something like that, and he's got a machine called the TomTit, which is transmission of matter through interstitial time. It's the idea that time is particulate like matter and energy, and you can pass objects through pass objects through time by passing them through the particulate time by getting between the particles and passing out, which is a great idea. I think it's very clever for a show from the 70s. Um, and But again, this is like the Master's involved with this alien called a four-dimensional being, which they refer to as a time monster. Again, I don't think you see him in these thumbnails, but it was a very strangely realized creature. Looks like it's like kind of like a bird, but has like a helmet, like a knight's helmet on it. It was very strange. And then it can also appear as a person. And it also involves Atlantis somehow in this one. And this is like I think this one was like the queen of Atlantis. I guess because she has the best cleavage. I don't know. And this is actually Joe Grant here with a wig on. She looks kind of interesting there. And then we're moving on to season 10. So this brings us to season 10, which is the 10th anniversary season, and the Three Doctors brings back William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton with John Pertwee to battle Omega, an evil Time Lord that is got stuck in the black hole when he and I guess Rassilon, who's not mentioned in this episode, he's mentioned later, is creating Gallifrey, that's creating the Time Lord Society, and they're giving them their power using a black hole. he gets caught in the black hole and is in an antimatter universe, and the three doctors have to band together to thwart him. I guess they have no. I guess all the other Time Lords are trapped on Gallifrey. But since the Doctor is, I guess, a rogue agent, they're able to take three of him and bring him into the same time so they can fight Omega together. That's Omega there, and he's invisible under the mask of the being in the antimatter universe. I guess dissolved his matter body, and so he realizes he really can't leave the antimatter universe. He's just a will, and he wants the doctors to stay there with them, but they trick him into blowing himself up, or so it would seem, until he comes back with in the fifth Doctor episode called Arc of Infinity. This is followed by Carnival of Monsters. So I do really recommend the Three Doctors. So again, that's probably one of my top 10 favorites, I think, or in my top 15 definitely. So Carnival of Monsters is a tight 4-part episode with I think it's this guy's called Vorg, and he has this mini scope that has people and aliens trapped in it, miniaturized form, and people can look at them living their lives. They've got like some people from like a 1920s cruise ship, and some of these aliens called Drashigs, and it's a fun event. And the Doctor and Joe get stuck there inside the scope, and they have to figure out what's going on and get out of it and convince them to put all the people back to where they belong, and aliens, not have them trapped in that scope. Kind of not scrupulous. So that's good. So next they have Frontier in Space, and I think that's followed by Planet of the Daleks, I think it's called. And it's actually one big story. It starts out with aliens, you don't see them here, called Draconians. And again, the Master is trying to start an intergalactic war this time between the Draconians and the humans. Draconians also have these like half masks that are very similar to the Klingon masks, where the mouth is it's prosthetic on top, and their mouth is only visible on the bottom. And they're kind of impressive looking for 70s Doctor Who, as are the Ogrons, which are another alien. There's a more like Dalek henchman. And so they're kind of impressive looking for that time. But that's the most impressive thing from the episode. I think it kind of drags a bit. Then it goes into Planet of the Daleks, where they run into the Daleks and the Thals fighting a war, this time on another planet with an ice volcano. I remember that was one of the things. I think it was interesting. I think they actually found ice volcanoes on Neptune, so it's fine. Like you think that would be a silly thing, but I guess it's possible. Neptune or Uranus has ice volcanoes on it, I forget. Maybe some of the like Jupiter's moons too, I don't know. But this is a lot of padding. So it's like 2/6, I think it's 2/6 parts. So Frontier and Space and Planet of the Daleks kind of make one big 12-part story altogether. It kind of continues into Frontier in Space, kind of continues into Planet of the Daleks. Then we have Joe Grant's final episode, The Green Death. This one is again, so it's kind of drawn out as a 6-parter. I do like, there's a supercomputer called Boss there. I think it's kind of an interesting character. And it kind of just sounds like a person talking, like a regular person talking. So it's like an original chatbot there. And there's also this company it's the boss is part of this evil company that has this that are dumping chemicals that are causing these maggots to turn giant sized and then turn have giant mosquitoes flying around. So it's just about the doctor versus an evil chemical company. Very 60s in its message, or very 70s in its messaging. And so we're going to go to John Pertwee's final season. Time Warrior. Okay, so Joe Grant leaves at the end of Green Death, and we get Sarah Jane Smith for the first time. It looks very pretty here. Um, and this is the first episode featuring Sontarans, which made it over into the new Doctor Who. They're a clone race. I know that, and they're all kind of the same, and they and they're warriors. They're fighting a endless battle with the Rutons, who make an appearance later in the Horror of Fang Rock. But here he's stranded back in time in medieval England, I guess, but or medieval Dark Ages England, and I gotta find this episode kind of tedious, and it's called Time War because he's bringing scientists from the 20th century back in time to England, to medieval England. Invasion of the Dinosaurs. With Doctor Who, I'm used to seeing the bad special effects, and it's not usually too jarring for me to watch a show like this. I mean, I grew up with the Sid and Marty Krofft shows, which were also very low budget, all on green screen, those kind of shows, and then so Doctor Who was not much different than those, so I was kind of used to that, and it doesn't bother me most of the time. Invasion of the Dinosaurs was like they really didn't have the budget to put their money where their mouth was, and the dinosaurs. I think this one followed in one of the maybe not. There's one there. There's like a Stegosaurus there. Uh, the dinosaurs are really pretty much just almost stationary models whose heads move around a little bit, and it's really off-putting and bad even for Doctor Who, and it's like almost like I guess they didn't have any other script to use, and it's like, but I would after looking at the production quality, I would say maybe we shouldn't bother even making this episode, but I guess they had with time constraints, what else could they do? Um, it is sort of an interesting story involving a group of people who want to age the Earth back to the age of the dinosaurs, and because it's too polluted and we're not going in a good humanity's not going in a good direction in their opinion, so they want to age bring the Earth back in time to the time of the dinosaurs, or before that, and then and then Mike Yates, who is Captain Mike Yates, who is part of UNIT, gets involved with this group, and it kind of has a nervous breakdown, I think. And that's kind of interesting that they would address mental illness in Doctor Who, but there you go. Death of the Daleks, actually, even though it's kind of, again, it suffers from production problems, I did enjoy this episode. I think it's only a four-parter. Yeah, so it's only a four-parter, and it is pretty good. It has City of the Exxilons. Sarah Jane references City of the Exxilons in Pyramid of Mars, which I don't know what she's talking about until I saw this episode. So there's a set piece that looks similar, and she makes that to City of the Exxilons, and she makes that mention in Doctor Who, which I thought that was kind of interesting that they would bring that up, but it's another one of those things where the automated city kicks out all its residents, and so the Doctor has to, I forget what the deal is. The Doctor has to go into the city to help deal with the Daleks, who are being a problem as usual. And it's followed by Monster of Peladon, which is a sequel to Curse of Peladon, but it takes place a generation later, and it is a really this is a really boring one. It's a real slog. I would skip this one. Monster of Peladon is just not worth your time. And then we have the final John Pertwee story, Planet of the Spiders, which is a fun romp about, and it's kind of brings back Mike Yates. There he is there, who goes to this I guess Buddhist retreat, and they're doing these chanting and meditating, but they're contacted by these psychic spiders from Metabolus 3, and in a previous, I think it was in Green Death, he picks up the crystal from Metabolus 3 and gives it to Joe Grant as a present. So it winds up, she mails it back to him, and and the spiders need that crystal in order to have like a critical mass for their psychic focusing power, so they can travel the universe and I guess take over the universe, and starting with Earth, I guess. But it's a funky episode. It's even though it's 6 parts, it is fun. Metabolus 3 is in the future, and there's an Earth colony there, and the spiders are Earth spiders, but exposed to the planet, they become these intelligent giant creatures, and then they attach onto humans' backs and take over their minds. I think this features both Bessie and the Whomobile, which I think is first brought out in Invasion of the Dinosaurs, and I think overall it's a fun romp, an adventure story. I think that John Pertwee wanted to do for his last story. And that brings us to the end of the Thrid Doctor. And now, how am I going to tackle Tom Baker, who's got 7 seasons? I'm going to have to break it up into at least 2 videos, I think, for Tom Baker. All right, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you can like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye.
Subscribe to Spaceman Matt's Sci-Fi vlog today. The fate of the world depends on it, I guess.